Shalom, Shalom, on self, so always giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Kadash, the blood of his apostle, great millstone, and honestly, brothers, doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His son's true name is Yahushua, and when we pray Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, meaning in, meaning the, and Sham, meaning names Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua. Real quick, I was around some, what we refer to as small hats, or Amalekites in scriptures. But this particular individual, that I was chatting with, he had to have been a Jake. The spirit that was coming off of him, he was a Jake, and this is one of the things that we teach, is that even some of them are really us. And that's one of the things as well. So we can't be offended at that. If it is if that is the instance, then that's the truth. But this is it. Israel is scattered. The children of Israel, all children of Israel, are scattered throughout all the nations. Okay, and one of the things I wanted to touch on in this is certain of the reasons, right? The primary reason is ultimately we went off, and that was one of the curses that was put upon us, the fact that we would end up looking like these heathens, okay, end up taking on their customs, basically becoming like they are. Okay, so that's why, for instance, you may see someone that looks, as an example, one that always comes up, someone that looks like a Moabite eating the most abominable of abominations. Okay, but then when you chat to them, you're like, actually, is a Jake. Okay, and that's just part of the curse. So this is Deuteronomy 28:64. It says, "And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people." And when it says all people, it means exactly that. Okay, so amongst those Amalekites, amongst those so-called Samoans, this whatever nation on the face of planet Earth, you're gonna have Israelites among them, because that's what it means by whole people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And that's once again part of the mystery. That's part of the showing the power of the Lord. And it goes on to say, it says, "And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." And you may have people that will be like, "Oh yeah, how can you have Israelites amongst those Elamites? They worship cows, they worship this god, they worship that god." But hey, what did we do? What did we do when we got out of Egypt? We worshipped a golden calf as a people. And this is the thing: people sometimes won't think about the scriptures in terms of the full context of. Rather, they'll be like, they won't be able to fathom things that are happening, but that's because they're looking at something in a much localized, in a very localized fashion, right? When you're looking at, for instance, one of the things one of the elders say, is you look at, for instance, Moab eating those abominations, but then you go to the islands and the Benjamin is eating the most. Okay, Benjamin's eating, was it conch? I think is the word. I'm just looking it up from on my other screen. Yeah, Benjamin will be eating conch. Will be eating. What's the one? Oh, I forgot the terms. Is it a mountain chicken? I think they call it. Yeah, mountain chicken, which is just basically a frog. Okay, but that's the things that Jake be doing. So then they're looking at people that look like heathens doing what is seen as heathenistic things, which these things are, right? These aren't Israelitish, customs, if you will. Okay, but then they're forgetting that people that they would consider Israel do the same things. In fact, when you especially, like, for instance, when you're around Jake that are so-called well-traveled, one of the things that you see in these travel documentaries, these food shows, people that are well-traveled generally eat bloody everything, right? Which makes me think of this precept here. It's Jeremiah 2:33. "Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?" Right? It's because they don't, they'll be in another country, but like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna try their cuisine. I don't want to be rude." If they get given something, they're not gonna be like, "Yo, whoa, I don't eat that." Okay, because once again, they haven't got that. They want to fit in there. That they're trying to seek love. Okay, they're trying to seek that acceptance of the people that they are around. Continue on, it says, therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. The wicked ones thy ways, yeah. Okay, so we come back to here. Oh, and then also we'll get onto that as well. Again, and continuing in the same vein, it says Jeremiah 17:4, it says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I'll cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So once again, linking to Deuteronomy 28:64, because we went off, one of the punishments was we would basically be scattered amongst the different nations. But then more so, on top of that, we would even get to a point where we forgot who we as a nation wouldn't know who we were. And this is it. When you haven't got the scriptures, you have no greater thing telling you, no, don't do that. When you haven't got the laws, you have no thing greater telling, like to basically saying, actually, no, you know, we don't do that. So then when you then for instance, as an Israelite foreigner, when you're quote unquote embedded in another area, and even straight up Jakes, okay, obviously outside this truth, when they're embedded in other cultures, but these times they're not Israel, they've not been enlightened to the truth, they're not aware of the dietary law written of in the scriptures. Guess what? They've got nothing really that says, actually, I'm not just going to try that. They may be like, nah, do I really want to eat that? They may be like, do I really want to eat a mountain chicken? Do I really want to eat, do I really want to eat squid? But then they've got nothing that says, nah, don't be doing that. We've got these scriptures, okay? But then not only that, throughout history, what has Jake been doing? And this is one of those things as well that people that will be like, oh, so and so can't be Israelite. Look how they look. But then they forget what Jake is doing today. Jake is going around to marry these heathen women, to you hear, and this is it, you hear of Jakes in all parts of the world, married up to all of the different women of the lands wherein they at. Okay, one of the things we're going to just joke about real quick later on is, for instance, like Nigeria, man, right? But you're going to have a lot of Judites among them, right? Nigerians are everywhere. You hear the most interesting mixes when you're dealing with so-called Nigerian men. Okay, in a Nigerian and Pakistani, Nigerian and Tajikistani, Nigerian and Polish. It's, some mixes. But then if you think that those people, let's say those men, then move to those lands, what do you think that his grandchild is going to look like? Well, it's going to look like one of the women from one of the people from that land. Okay, and it only takes like 2 or 3 generations. Well, we always used to speak about people like Blake Griffin, right? That was a great example, because you saw it, in the would you call it, family photo, right? Where his let me just pull it up real quick. Family, right? You see it where his grandfather is a dark skinned Jake, he's a light skinned Jake. But then his son, right, looks like just any regular white boy. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's one with the entire family together, which doesn't. It used to be very easy to find it. It doesn't look like I can find it, but you can look it up yourselves, right? But this is an example. This is speaks about this in Ezra as well. But I'll get the account in Nehemiah 13, starting from verse 23. It says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, right? Ammon, being so-called Japanese, Moab being so-called Chinese. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. Now, as we're about to read, okay, this ain't when we're dealing with these heathen women, the actual heathen women, not saying like Israelite foreigners that obviously look like the heathen women. When you're dealing with the actual heathen women, they had a position. They were just concubines, right? But what was happening was Jake was basically going all up in them, marrying them, and all of that sort of stuff. But these times, right? So let's read it again. It says, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of the people. So then once again, you consider this idea of, imagine this isn't in Israel. Imagine now this is in bring it to modern day times. Imagine this is in Poland. Imagine this is in Romania. Imagine this is in Japan. Okay, what do you think those children are going to end up speaking if they're living in those lands, especially if they those children lean more to one way than the other, right? They're going to be speaking those languages, but they're not going to be necessarily speaking the language of, of say, necessarily both parents, okay? And this is what was happening back then. So if it was happening back then, that's several generations, right? That's several generations wherein, those particular children had sown their seed, and then in the spirit going back, you might look at them today. They may look as Samoan as they come, right? Might look as Amalekite as they come. But then when you check their spirits, like, oh, actually, I think it's a Jake still. Okay? It says, and I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by the Most High, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Right? Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, who was beloved of his power, and power made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. And that's one of the things. Outlandish, literally out of the land. You might hear people, oh, that was outlandish. It actually literally means, yeah, we don't really do that here. Basically, heathen, basically, okay? Outlandish women cause to sin. And once again, when you look at what Jake does, like, and what people do in general when they marry a woman from another nation, a lot of the times they start embracing certain aspects of their culture. Like, for instance, if you might date a Thai chick, she's gonna try bring that fucking Buddha, excuse my French, but bring that bloody Buddha head into your house. Okay, women, and all women do that, but if you're dealing with someone from that region, they might try bring that kind of culture into your house. Okay, or food. You might be like, oh no, I want to be eating this, and then once again, if you ain't got these laws to be like, no, we don't eat that. Okay, I don't eat that. That's something was, oh, I'll just try it. Okay, so we carry on. Okay, and then another thing as well, war. Because what would happen? Men would go out to war. Now this is the war. Is the law on basically when you found a woman and you wanted to bring her back with you. Okay, but then there would have been times throughout the ages where Jay was just doing what they were doing. They'd go to war, maybe go or on their way to war, right? Stop by, go to a harlot house, do what it is they got to do, and then keep it moving. Or they're in a bar, which you kind of saw that during the Vietnam War, where Jake basically were leaving their children. Okay, GI babies, I think it is. Okay, and this is it. Even he was doing that. He was getting it in that Vietnam War. Jake was getting it in that Vietnam War, because that's what it is. You see a chick, you're like, oh, she looked good. She looked good. What do you think happens at the end of that? Okay, just trying to see if I got some pictures on there. Nothing worth showing anyway. Okay, but this is the law. This is Deuteronomy 21 from 10. This is when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and Jehovah thy power hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails. So let me read that again, Salakia. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and Jehovah thy power hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive. Okay, so war, won the war, everything's blessed. Okay, it says, and seest them among the captives a beautiful woman. Oh, she looked good. Okay, it says, and has a desire unto her that thou wouldest have her to wife. So I want that piece. Okay, so then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and shalt shave her head and pare her nails. Okay, so basically you're taking her from her peoples, and you're gonna have her as basically a concubine. He says, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. Okay, and because she's a heathen woman, she'll be effectively a lesser wife, right? But still yours. But once again, remember there in time has always been instances where mans have just popped and dipped. Okay, and what do you think the children that came forth from that union? What do you think? What kind of women did the boys born from that union? What kind of women did they have to deal with? Women from that region. Okay, so then guess what? You're gonna have children from all over the world just purely from war. Once again, the Vietnam War is an example of that. Now, if this is in our laws, then this is something that's been happening throughout the ages. Okay, and then also nowadays, and people have been traveling, right? But this is Daniel 12 and 14. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words of the book and shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. At this point that I wanted, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Right? So run to and fro, basically meaning just the ability to travel great distances in a short time. Right? And once again, going into this idea of, here it is, these things are happening today, but some Jakes have a hard time thinking that things weren't happening before. Right? So I was just looking it up before, because this is kind of like a joke. Okay, a running joke that Nigerians are everywhere. You go this skit, that skit, that skit, that skit. Okay, why there's so many Nigerians around the world, right? The whole thing, Nigerians are everywhere, Nigerians are everywhere, right? Nigerians are everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. It says, I mean, all countries, triple exclamation mark. Okay, so imagine Jake is doing that today, and you have people that can see that this is happening today, but then can't see that this has been happening throughout the ages. And one of the bits of information I wanted to go into, but I'm actually Lord's Will going to save that for another video, to do a little bit more research into it, is the fact that people have been trading. Once again, what do you think happens when you're going on trade routes? Here it is, you've been on horseback for a long period of time, or whatever mode of transport for a long period of time, right? You finally get to your destination. Okay, you're a man, you're exercising your right, you go into a harlot, and then guess what happens? Okay, or you go into this, would you think happens, right? You end up with the Israelite foreigners, right? But then not only that, you also end up with tares as an example, right? So you may have, someone that's you look like well, in fact, you'll have people that look like Moabites, but they'll be really Edomites, because there's same with Elam, because let's not forget and same obviously when we speak about the tares, we're speaking of Jake, okay, but when you look at that the history of slavery, how he was basically raping certain of the Israelite women. Okay, so you're gonna have tares that look like so-called black people. They're really Edomites. Same way you're gonna have people that look like Moabites that are really Edomites. People that look like Elamites that are really Edomites. Okay, because he's gone around just basically conquering everyone, right? But this is Isaiah 11:11. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set thine hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. Okay, so basically everywhere. It says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. which allows us to segue, into this is Matthew 24:31. It says, "And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds of the earth." Slightly from the four winds, even from one end of heaven to the other. Okay, so once again, Israel scattered everywhere, but the elect, the elect aren't going to be lost. It doesn't matter ultimately how you look, because if you read 1 Corinthians the 15th chapter, we're all going to be changed anyway. And also to end with Ezekiel 36:19, I'll read into it. It says, "And I scattered them among the heathen, and they were dispersed through the countries. According to their way and according to their doings, I judged them. And when they entered unto the heathen, whither they went, they profaned." So let's break this down slightly, right? So we spoke about earlier on the fact that we were scattered amongst these heathens as a punishment. Okay, that's what it says. According to their way and according to their doings, I judged them. And when they entered unto the heathen, whither they went, they profaned my holy name. When they said to them, "These are the people of Yahweh, and are gone forth out of his land." But I had pity for my holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the heathen, whither they went. When you look at the pericope, Israel to be renewed for his name's sake. It goes on to say in verse 22, "So therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Lord power, I do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for mine holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen whither ye went." So we fell as a nation. That Disney storyline. You got a main character and he has a great fall, but at the end it's a great, basically back into grace story, right? And then live happily ever after. Right? We're being prepared for that live happily ever after. Okay, so it says, but for my holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen, whither ye went. And I will sanctify my great name, which ye have profaned among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith the Lord power, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. For I'll take you from among the heathen, and gather you out of where? Out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land. So Israel scattered everywhere, and the Lord is the one that's gonna deliver us out of this state, and ultimately deliver us back into our land. Okay. As always, Lord's without edifying. Till next time we say, Shalom.